suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
Okay. So this movie partially has a special meaning to Mike and me in a way, because after taking, I want to say it was a 3-year break of me and Mike never reviewing anything, we did my first review on this channel where I was doing literally nothing but Ruby content. And I thought, hey, we should do something like we used to. And I finally found something that was better than the god-awful experience it was of when me and Mike used to record using Google Hangouts.
God, that was that was bad.
That was very bad. And then the first review that we did on that channel, this channel, because God, why would I speak normally? Because that's just can't be having that when I'm doing anything. I can't talk. Okay, where I had this ready initially, that was 4 years ago.
5, actually.
According to YouTube, it's 4. It was uploaded on October 6, 2019.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Whenever I minimize it on there, it says 4 years. I don't know. That's according to the YouTube shortener, it's 4 years. But anyway, so I was very excited about seeing that movie because I thought, Joker has Umbreon, me too. That had a opportunity to be something really wild and show the whole, what Joker means by what we've said in multiple iterations of DC, the one bad day thing, showing that in a real life context. And then I got out of that movie and I was very happy with it. Had some of the most genuinely tense and just like gripping moments that I've had in a movie in a long time. And it was from a director who did the Hangover films and, did really good with the first one and then kind of royally screwed the pooch with the second one. I'm not going to say I was far off of that same experience with this film, but I have a comparator. I was trying real hard to try to explain how I felt about this film compared to its previous. And then I finally found it about an hour and a half ago while I was eating my dinner. This movie is End of Evangelion.
Oh my God, you're right, and I hate you for it.
Todd Phillips had an ending and went, no, this is how it ends, because y'all complained. So, Umbreon, to educate, in the End of Evangelion, there was in the regular Neon Genesis Evangelion, which if you want to watch Umbreon, I highly suggest. It is basically the Star Wars of anime. I had someone describe that to me the other day. And we did a review for all the episodes if you want to go through it with us, me, him, and Cameron. And so the very ending episode of the original run of Evangelion has a... Oh, you have seen everything. Oh, then we got to explain that. But then when they redo it with Ava, Anno got comments that he didn't like. What I mean by the end of the series, Umbreon, I mean the movie that he made that redoes episode 25 and 26.
Yeah, it's literally called The End of Evangelion.
Yeah, the movie is called End of Evangelion. He redoes the ending of the original show. He just totally throws episode 25 and 26 in the trash and rewrites it. And 90% of the cast dies or gets turned into Fanta. Masato is made to be a pedophile. And Shinji is cucked by a giant alien version of Rei and Kaoru, and then he chokes Asuka. So it's kind of like everything that was set up in the originally just went, I'm going to do something different just because I can. And then Todd Phillips did that with this. I just need to get all this out. I have never walked out of a theater in more of a state of just what the hell than I have with this movie in quite some time.
I mean, you compare it to End of Evangelion, and that's like that's as perfect as a comparison as anyone could come up with, because anyone who's comparing this to the Matrix Resurrections owes Lana
No.
Wachowski like a full apology.
No, no. I don't think they watch Resident. No, no.
Absolutely not.
Not at all. Okay, you're more of a musical person than me, so go on about the musical numbers, because I'm going to have a very different opinion than I feel you're going to. Or maybe I might not, but go ahead.
So on the one hand, I liked what they were trying to do with the musical sequences, but much like everything else in this movie, they can't commit to a goddamn thing.
No.
Like,
yeah.
The musical sequences were not very well thought out. I thought individually they were great. Oh God, Taylor, you're right.
He's very right. He's very right. Keep going.
Okay, so individually, I thought the musical sequences were great. At least the ones that were very clearly set in Arthur's fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought those
were fantastic.
Yeah, those were some of the major highlights. But they were never really consistent with how the musicals were how the sequences were structured, and the very concept of this being a musical just it felt like an afterthought, which is honestly what I kind of feared from the start.
Yeah, because what's weird to me about this, other than the ones that were in Arthur's imagination land, which I would have kind of liked if that would have been a consistent thing. Like, every time he was in a scene, it kind of like, with Sophie, Zazie Beetz' character, which, correct me if I am wrong, wasn't it shown to believe that he fucking killed her in the last movie?
I honestly do not remember.
I rewatched it recently, and you don't exit that scene with the understanding that her character survived. At all. I thought I was having a stroke in the theater when her character showed up, and no one fudged a minute. Nothing. I don't know if I'm just interpreting the scene that he was with her wrong, but it did not give any sort of reason to think that Zazie Beetz' character or her daughter survived. Maybe the daughter, but Zazie, no fucking way.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it has been a minute since I've seen the original. At best, all I did was to prepare for this was watch the Cinema Wins video on everything great about Joker.
Yeah. I enjoy the musical aspect. The music is a way to communicate to each other and artist fantasies. It was a you take with her. Yeah, fantasy stuff was great. The problem with the musical numbers, one, your afterthought thing is something I completely agree with. Two, you have Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, and she didn't write any music for this.
Yeah, that's a problem. And I know she did release a companion album called Harlequin, which is still just like half covers from the movie and maybe a couple original songs. But again, had the musical aspect been fully baked into the DNA of this movie, we could have had something special.
And that really old review of The Dark Knight Rises that said it isn't about anything yet. Yeah, you're kind of right, and I agree with that. The third thing I was going to say, and why I agree with the afterthought thing, every time they broke into song where it wasn't in the imagination land, it felt like the characters decided to start singing in the middle of the shoot and just no one stopped them.
You're not wrong.
It didn't feel like that was what was supposed to be happening. It just felt like the director didn't say cut. And I don't mean to be mean to Joaquin Phoenix. He is a unbelievably talented actor. His singing was bad. And I could not understand him a lot of the time.
And I think that was a deliberate choice, too. Because I'm pretty sure he did his own singing in Walk the Line. And he sounded much better there.
Okay, well, if it was just, like, I'm okay if you sing and it's bad. There was points where I legitimately, and because there were some songs that I didn't know what they were, I didn't know what the hell he was singing. And then, like, that took me out a lot. Felt like a regular person if you saw a Sing Street and it just started, someone started filming. Yeah, so, like, I need to have thoughts behind the connective threads of this whole thing. That character that was it a Gleason? Oh.
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson, that like the little buddy guy of Arthur's that's in the movie.
No, that was,
I think of the wrong guy. Who was that?
Hold on.
I'm blanking.
Oh, Gary Puddles.
No, not Gary Puddles. The guy who was in jail with him.
Oh, Ricky.
Either way, that guy.
Are you talking about one of the Arkham officers?
No, I'm talking about his best buddy that sings "The Saints Are Marching" with him.
Oh yeah,
his best friend.
That's Ricky.
Okay, Ricky. Anyway, any guy outside the courthouse. There's no. I was just I get you there. That's one of like his whole thing is just kind of a random start. Gaga being allowed to just walk around Arkham Asylum, be let into his cell to engage in what might be the most awkward sex scene I've seen in a film in my entire life.
Oh, yeah, that. Thank God there weren't that many people in my screening.
I was the only one in my theater. Thank God. Because I understand, like, realistic sex is not what movies and porn make it out to be. But
just in that room, in that like environment, just
also the more I think about it, the more gross it is, because when you get down to what Harley actually is, they like Todd Phillips goes out of his way to say this is not Harley Quinn. And I get she doesn't have the Boston, New Yorkish, whatever. Sometimes they flamboyant, like mess around with that accent, but she still is super smart. Her parents are alive. She has a psychology degree. She essentially rapes him because she goes in there, takes advantage of his mental state because she's obsessed with this guy. And then as soon as he's not the Joker anymore, she doesn't matter. And I think she lied about being pregnant to him.
Ooh. Yeah,
it is gross the more I think about it.
There's character assassination, and then there's this.
No, he lasted 20 seconds, which was 17 more. It's still unrealistic. But like, and then like he brought up like the outside the courthouse. They just run away undercover, hide behind the car, and then they're like, nope, now we're going to dance in the streetlights underneath the surveillance lights of the freaking helicopters, and then just try and climb out. And no one notices her just striking a pad of matches and starting the piano on fire until a couple of people go, well, that smells like marshmallows. It's like, everything in this movie just happens for the sake of happening. I don't mean to sound negative, but I was trying to put the plot threads together in my head. Harley's in the jail because they let her commit herself?
Yeah, how does that work exactly?
She had no priors, no mental illness. She goes to school for psychology, and they're just like, yeah, just go in there. It's fine. And like, okay, what I thought was going to happen, I gave the movie way too much credit for. I'm watching this going, okay, the small annoyance that they call her Lee and only mention it, like, I actually didn't mind that because they have the whole thing where this Arthur is being Arthur. I didn't mind the whole Lee thing. That I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, so they show his lawyer talking about how Harley is, lying to him and that she's not what she says she is.
Yep.
She's actually very intelligent. And they make you believe that she is leading on Arthur to get him to do the things that she wants to do. What does that sound like, Mike?
That sounds like gaslighting.
No. Well, yes, but that sounds like the exact role reversal of how they are in comics.
Oh yeah, no, I knew that going in that was like kind of what they were going for.
Yeah, but then they drop that like a fucking sack of hammers the second that he just admits to the murders. Along with every other plot point in the movie.
Yeah, we'll get to how
like that
cowardice the ending is.
Yeah, but like that was my big thing. I'm like, okay, if they're doing this, that's an actually really great idea to make this sequel off of. And I was going to be super impressed. And I gave the movie way too much credit. And then just the interviews, the weird ass, everybody basically just slobbing his knob this whole film. Like, I get that there was people standing up for like the terrorism of Gotham and the just deplorable state that the city's in. But they like went from not 0 to 100, 0 to 8 million with how much the city liked him in the span of what? 4 weeks?
Something like that.
And he hasn't done any live interviews, nothing. He's just been in a jail cell because they only talk about how they released the interview of him with the guy who was pressuring him that they couldn't talk about, or she couldn't call him Joker in that first interview.
Oh, the guy that Steve Coogan was playing?
Yes. So they've seen nothing of him. He's just been in a cell. And yet he's the most like loved person on the planet. Appearing in this movie is a perfect representation of Phoenix every time there's a theme. Joaquin Phoenix is never going to let down that whole freaking... what was that movie called where he was supposed to play a gay man and then he just backed out at the last second?
I don't remember what it's called.
Okay, anyway. But I'm going to try and get every other thing I can and let you talk, so I know I'm saying a lot of this, and I need to get better at that in our reviews. And then just like you said, with not a consistent tone. If every time they would have broke out in song and they did it in this imagination land, kind of like not even where it's on the stage like they did, or like where they set up the separate like whatever's with like they're on the game show of Harley and Joker, whatever. If they would have had it in an instance like in the courthouse when he like bludgeons the judge to death.
Oh, yep.
Like if every one of them would have been an out-of-body experience like that, that would have been better. That would have made sense in a tone.
I thought about this more, and the fantasy sequences in the first movie were better executed because you were actually questioning what was reality and what was fantasy.
Yeah.
This time, I think, and again, part of what went wrong with this movie is that whether intentional or not, this almost became like everything that the first movie wasn't.
It was, because this was supposed to be something that was different, a new take on it. And the weird part is they then sequelized it and took the things from the first film that were something different and then did it 15 times in this film. Because, like, the weird dancing after he kills the guys in the subway and runs off, there was no point of that in the film other than to make you feel uncomfortable. And it did. And you're like, okay, this dude's got screws loose. We understand he's got screws loose by the time this film comes up. It's kind of the guy got to the finish line and then they went, but what if we just start the race over, but we still said he's the winner?
That's honestly a perfect analogy for this movie existing.
Like, this is supposed to be a man's descent into madness of, like, he had a really bad day, and they portrayed it in an excellent manner. I have met people that have come to that point. I've talked about it on this channel. I got so, like, with bullying and other things to where people just are relentless of you over basic shit where I almost killed myself. We did a whole showing of how we went through Gurren Lagann, but, like, how that show saved my life. And just some people don't have that. Arthur never had that in the first film, other than a few people that didn't have enough power to help him through those situations. So we got to this point. Then everyone in this film uses him, abuses him, tells him that he's correct and he never did anything wrong. And then we get to the end of the film and he goes, nah, I was just playing.
I have never been more disappointed by an ending than
Can you think of one that comes close to this in recent memory, honest to God?
Probably The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, that's a good one.
That, and I'm even kind of torn on the ending of Glass. But, like, those are some of the examples of when a movie just kind of flails out.
Because, honest to God, tell me if I missed something. He gets out of the courthouse, and, like, this entire time, everyone at the jail loves him. Harley loves him. Everyone loves him. And I get the whole, we were in love with the Joker. We weren't in love with you. That's what he became. That's the whole point of the first movie, is that's just who he is. He just found a way to properly express himself as the Joker. But that still is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
This gives some weird... the Joker. And then he's just like, I am that person, but I'm not technically the Joker. So then everyone goes, we support everything you did, but only when you had the makeup on. You can't also just tell Arthur that you respected what he did, but it only matters because he has the makeup on?
It's such a shallow message to convey when, again, say what you will about the first movie, but at least it committed to Arthur's descent into madness.
Yeah. And this one didn't shy away from it until the ending hour. And we go through all of this where Harley kicks him to the curb. Her entire point, like Umbreon brought up earlier, no, I was just with her for the excitement and the make-believe. I don't like that thing that you were. Even though you're still that thing, I only liked you when you had makeup on. Even though that doesn't change anything, that you're still admitting you are that person and you did those things, you just don't have the makeup on because you admitted to it being wrong, even though you didn't admit that you were sorry. He was gonna just whatever, and then he ran away from people to get to Harley to get away, and she just goes, nah, I'm good. And then he gets back to the jail. All these people don't give two shits about him. I understand it's supposed to go, oh, see, no one really ever liked you in the first place only because you were popular. That was not the point of that first movie. They liked him because this was not a popular guy.
Mm-hmm.
They literally just threw that whole plot point straight in the trash. And then Ricky Boy comes in and they take Arthur around the corner and they just redo the joke from the end of it, but badly. And then you stab Arthur Fleck in the chest 16 times. And then am I supposed to believe that Ricky is the new Joker from how they end this movie?
Okay, correction. The guy who stabs him is not Ricky. That's another inmate who is in Arkham.
Oh, I thought that was the same guy because to me they looked identical. If they are, he looks almost exactly the same as Ricky.
No, he wasn't quite as disgusting as Ricky.
But either way,
either way, your point about the ending just being a poor imitation of how the first one ended, yeah, that is accurate.
And it just stops on a freeze frame, and what it looks like, you can see partially in the background, is the guy spreading the blood on his face, like half-assed with his hands, and then starting to laugh maniacally like the Joker. It's the, no, you weren't good enough, I'll be him now?
Which, nope. Sorry.
You know what this smells like?
Hmm.
Todd Phillips heard someone say, no, that's not the real Joker. He's the guy who inspires the Joker, and then made a fucking movie.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Versus he went, Joker, one bad day. Got it. I can make a movie around that. Which is what the Joker's intro is. Not in this exact tense. Like, it's not the falling in the vat of acid and all that, but it's a realistic interpretation of what a bad day is. I don't get, and oh boy, is this going to just be the nail on the head. Hold on. This movie could have been a tragedy of Arthur's whole character. He only commits to the Joker just to get praise from others. He doesn't actually want to be him. Yeah, it could have been if they know committed to it. And I don't mean this in the existence of why did they make it? Because the first one was one of the most profitable movies in history, and no one ever talks about how this movie only costed $50 million and made $1.5 billion.
And then went on to land 11 Academy Award nominations.
Yeah. What was actually gained story-wise from this movie? Like, what was a logical story standpoint to make this film other than to put Harley Quinn in it?
At the end of the day, nothing. Because you could have made a movie that that addresses the aftermath of what happened in the first film and maybe just continue building out this world. But instead, again, kind of comparing this to Glass, they built only up into a certain point, and then like a toddler just or a younger brother just came in, took your Lego set and just smashed it to pieces.
Yeah, and then I can't, I want to know what the mentality of this was. This was like the leading up to, I'm glad you guys like that one. Whatever, I can't even come up with anything other than End of Evangelion because it's the exact, except for people weren't mad at Todd Phillips this time. They weren't bashing his door down that they didn't like the ending. They did. Except he did it anyway. He pulled an auto and just destroyed the script because lulz. And then a car bomb disrupts the freaking except End of Alien was a good yeah, I will say it was good. A good ending. But I thought I was having a stroke from the second that wall exploded to the end of the movie.
Yeah. Something else we haven't talked about. I know why for plot reasons, but
Harvey Dent,
what? Yeah. Why is he here? Like
because it's
I get that this takes place mostly in a courthouse, and they needed a lawyer or a DA, so you got Harvey Dent. But
Umbreon, you and me can talk about that on a different day. That one's open-ended to think different ways. But anyway, this was one of those, everyone was kind of like, just because it's in Gotham doesn't mean we need to have a bunch of people in it. They had Bruce and Alfred and Thomas because it matched the lie that his mom told him, so that they were used as a thing. Bruce is, how old was he in the first movie?
like
10?
I think maybe a little bit younger.
8, maybe?
Yeah.
6 or 8, maybe? Now
Yeah,
that I'm
6 or...
remembering more about the scene with him at the gate and stuff. So Harvey's in his maybe early 30s.
Yeah, we'll say early 30s.
So he would have been 60 when Bruce is Batman.
Yeah. Okay, so the actor who played Harvey Dent, Harry Lottie, is like 26 or 27. So
Chop off 5 years doesn't change the point.
yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. Like, that was the exact thing people bitched preemptively was going to happen in Joker. And then it didn't. And maybe it was just because I was in the shock of how it was ending. Did they partially fuck up his face when that bomb went off?
Maybe a little bit. Like I hope that's not the reason why they did the car bomb, just so they could have a shot of, I don't even know if they did like fuck up his face. I think that's just dirt from the explosion.
It could be dirt. Like I said, my brain was just, because full spoiler, people, I knew nothing about how this was going to be other than, oh boy, were people not impressed, and that they could not believe the ending of the film. So the second that bomb went off, I'm like, is everyone just going to die and that's the ending of the film? So my brain was kind of just soup once that hit, because I was waiting to see what the ending was. Because every scene they shot from there could have just been the ending. And then it just kept going and going and going. When you're, if you watch it again, Umbreon, when they cut from the open shot of the wall, they pan over to where Arthur's table was, and then where Harvey's table was, where the split is, where you walk up to go out of the courthouse. Harvey's body was to, technically, if you're walking into the courthouse, to the right. If you're looking out the courthouse door, he was leaned up against the wall where his table would have been, like this, leaned, with a bunch of crap covering the left side of his face. So, and then it goes over to the juror's desk. They were going for a good ending, in my opinion, when you had him sitting down and actually just talking to the jurors. So when they were having him confess that, like, yeah, it was this, and I was like, I'm not getting what people are complaining about, because they just, like, convict him and he's sentenced and it's done. That would have been not what I expected. I expected him to be broken out and do whatever, but if they would have went with that, that would have been a guy has bad day, does manic shit, and then realistically is dealt with. He shot a TV host on national television and then confessed to the murders of other people, including his mother, that they didn't know he did.
Yeah, like, honestly, even before the explosion, I was kind of disappointed that they just kind of dropped the whole "I'm the Joker" thing.
Yeah, because that was even the point of all the songs. Every song had the freaking word Joker in it almost.
Yep. So I was already kind of teetering before the explosion. The explosion was just the all bets are off. This movie is spiraling.
I kind of feel like he didn't know how to end this movie.
That's what it feels like.
It feels like he signed a contract, they started shooting, and he went, shit. I said it was going to be a musical, and we have Lady Gaga, and I don't know anything else. Because, like, there's a clip of Matt Stone and Trey Parker that I love to point back to, where they talk about the proper process of writing, where you shouldn't do this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. The plot should go, this happens, therefore this happens. You don't just make events happen because you want them to, and events should transpire in a way because of the previous scene you had. It shouldn't ignore the thing that came before it just because you wanted to have this scene later on. I felt like I watched an entire movie happening in the way that they explain how writing should not be done.
You're not wrong.
And this kind of like shoots in the foot my hopes of like, I wanted a political satire film of Lex Luthor at some point. I'm not getting that. I'm not. This shot in the foot of them ever doing a film like this ever again. Because this is going to freaking crash and burn.
And yet I hope they... I know this movie's not going to do well, but I really hope that it doesn't discourage DC from taking risks. Like, on the Zeroing Out podcast, we talked about that animated dynamic duo movie, which sounds awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's even going to be part of the DC universe, allegedly.
Well, he did say it was part of a separate universe.
Well, we know it's not going to be a part of the Matt Reeves universe, even though he's producing. But the point is they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's more experimental, out of the box. I hope that through this Elseworlds label that James Gunn actually uses that as an excuse to get creative with these characters, tell stories outside of continuity. I don't want this movie's non-success to discourage those plans.
I agree, because like a slasher film with Deathstroke, a political, whatever you want to be with Lex Luthor, you can do some cool things that are villain-centric. That first movie proved that you can make a movie about a guy who essentially becomes a villain. Like, they did it multiple times with like Taxi Driver and what's the other one that I'm not thinking of?
The King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. This movie in general just makes me mad. Yeah, man, I've been trying proper ways to let people know that it's just, I was very excited about Gaga being Harley in this, but like, I'm pretty sure you agree with me with this. I walked out of Joker going, do not make a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like that was how it was going to be. And I just, like, the most mad I think I've ever been at a sequel is Zoolander 2. Ooh. That is the only movie that ever almost made me walk out of a theater. That was one of the most painful experiences I have ever had in a movie theater, and I've seen every single Transformers film in a theater. So this one, I like finished it and just Zoolander 2, Umbreon. I finished it and just sat contemplating what actually happened. Very happy now that I'm living on my own. Makes me very picky about which movies I go to. Yeah. Man, unless you want to try and dissect what the hell happened, yeah, it was. It was very bad. I know that you guys are watching this because you watched the movie. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be negative or just crap over a movie, but this was
Good choice,
wow,
Jacob.
good choice, Jacob. This had some great moments in it, like we said, the production stuff on those Elseworld scenes. Even sometimes when it was supposed to be raunchier or more rated R, they backed off on it. They weren't afraid to show him stabbing the living shit out of someone and blood gushing in the first one, but yet when he's bashing that judge's brains in, it's with a whack-a-mole toy and nothing happens.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me. Like, this is still very much an R-rated movie. They say the F-bomb a couple times, but yeah, as far as the violence goes, okay, yeah, there's like a couple stabbings, but
I don't know. This is one of the weirdest experiences I've had walking out of a movie. But man, if you have ideas, try them, but don't try them until you're sure it's something to go with. But of course, it meant nothing. Yeah, I will. Yeah, that was one of the best scenes in the film, Umbreon. It was. That was genuinely great acting.
mm-hmm.
I feel that, and again, going back off the Joker, that whole way that Arthur acts towards him was pointless because he full-fledged went 9,000,000% into the fact that he's the Joker, acting all hammy and exactly how he was on the Murray Show, just to a day later, with no one telling him anything was wrong or that anything he did was inappropriate, go, yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore. Well, I take that back. He did get the shit beat out of him by the guards, but they weren't exactly being like, that's not the first time someone beat him up for doing something as the Joker.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the message of this film was all over the place. It's not one I'm going to recommend people, and that hurts me.
I to quote what I said at the end of my review on Letterboxd, I said, now that I've seen the movie, I'm back to square one with how I felt about Joker, because we said this before. I didn't want a sequel after seeing the first one, and I even stressed that, kind of like what we said earlier, regardless of how this movie does, I still want to see more creative projects like this from DC Studios. But unless you have already planned to see this movie, I can't in good faith recommend it.
No. And like someone also brought up, Arkham Asylum got really old after a while. Like really old after a while.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in the courthouse for that entire movie, and we got it for like 20 minutes.
If more of the movie was spent in the courthouse, again, kind of going back to committing to one fucking idea.
Yeah.
Then this movie would have. It still may not have been good, but at least it would have been good. It would have been not good with conviction.
Yeah, and my other issue, this movie had no need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
This movie could have been an hour and a half.
It could have been.
And it would have been a better movie. You know why? Because it would have chopped a shit ton of the Arkham Asylum stuff out that was not necessary. It could have cleaned up all the plot lines with Harley to make her more compelling, and it could have been mostly him in the courthouse.
Yeah, because stuff in the courthouse was honestly the most compelling stuff.
It was. Absolutely. yeah, I could go on for a lot longer about how this was just a bleh. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I'm done.
Yeah, this is one of those. This kind of this kind of reminds me of how we felt coming out of Morbius, where we're just like, yeah, I never want to see that again.
I'm going to tell you right now, and this can be the final thing I could say. If I had to be put in a room, I'm picking Morbius
Over this.
in a fucking heartbeat. Because I can laugh at Morbius.
True.
There was 2 good jokes in Morbius. I can tell you that at those 2 jokes, I enjoyed that stuff more, and then I can laugh at how stupid Morbius was.
This, no.
I can't do that. I can't do that with this. I can't. And like, I left Morbius befuddled for different reasons, but
yeah,
yeah.
This just. So one last thing I'll say, for anyone who's curious about where this movie ends up on my list, it's too competently made to be the worst movie of the year. Like, the score is really good, the performances are great, the cinematography is like gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
But it's all the narrative. The story is one that I just hate this too much to tell people you should go see it. If you're going to see it or you've seen it already, great. I would love to hear your thoughts. But I cannot recommend this one.
That just makes me spin in your ear. And I mean, if you've watched up to this point through the whole review, because maybe you're one of those people that love this movie and you just shut this off the second that we start saying we didn't like it. Honest to God, if I missed something, if I missed a plot point, if I missed a reason why stuff was done the way it is, put it in the comments. Tell me. I am at a loss for what they thought this whole thing was supposed to be a part of, other than laughing to hope that they would get money made off of this, just from the fact how much the first one made. And I had people telling me that this thing is going to clear Deadpool and Wolverine before this came out. Ho ho! You're hilarious. But yeah, that's all that I have. Mike, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me in all the usual places at Captain K42. You guys can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and that place at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us here on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we.
Absolutely. You can find me everywhere at Organoid0. I forgot how much everything lined up this week for recordings and stuff. Whenever this drops, if it is Friday morning, I will be back to streaming Friday night. And I should be streaming again Sunday to finish up Alan Wake, because I need to get my ass moving on Life is Strange before the new one comes out. And I will be doing Until Dawn's remake after all the Life is Strange stuff, because I'm going to let every other big streamer that's huger than me do it, and then I'm going to let it be done later so that I'm more out of the whole way of all that. We'll see you all later. Bye!